Hello there, Facebook people, YouTube people, and other internet folks. Welcome back. Welcome. It's beautiful Sunday morning, at least so far, after that dreary, dreadful weather later yesterday. Didn't get as bad as it could have here. Just a little bit of wind, a lot of rain, but not too bad, and woke up to a bright, sunshiny day. So far, but I understand it's supposed to get bad again, so we'll see. I just wanted to update you guys real quick for those that might be interested on what's going on here in Sharpsburg, Georgia at Mike's Magic Auto Detailing and Paint Enhancement. Oh boy. Hey, Miss Glenda. Miss Glenda, how you doing? Happy Sunday to you, Miss Glenda. You better get that walking in before it starts raining again later on. I understand it's coming back. It's coming back. But I just wanted to update you guys. One of my paint shop buddies stopped by. He said, what's those little bitty pieces of tape for? They're here and there. And you see one right there. What that is taping over paint defects that I don't want to forget are there, and I don't want to be buffing on those. It's cracks and peeling and that kind of stuff in those spots, and I don't want the buffer anywhere near that. One of my credos is, you know what? Make the car look way better, but particularly in a car like this, do no harm. But as you can see, I finished this door and the back part of that fender, which is actually part of the front door. Kind of a unique design feature, I think. Kind of a unique design feature, Miss Glenda, but it's kind of cool. And as you can see, I've removed all the protective tape I had all around the windows and up there around the door handle, the key hole, and that chrome piece there, down there. I left that, but I repositioned it over because I'm about to start on this. But I think you can see, if you can remember when I did some previous videos, there was a lot of scratches on this door, a lot, particularly around the door handle, as you might imagine from people's fingernails. There were some very long scratches down in there. Those have all virtually disappeared at this point. Hey, Mr. Harrison. But it took a lot of tedious and wet sanding on certain parts of those scratches. And in fact, most of the time I just used a 3000 grit, but I had to drop down on some of that to 2000. And then of course I had to compound that out. Of course that took a different pad and a different compound than the rest of the panel that had not been wet sanded. But a lot of this one was wet sanded with either 2000, 2500 or 3000 grit sandpaper. Then all of it was compounded with the Sonax Max Cut. Some of it I did over with a one-step polish, the HD Speed, which worked out nicely. A lot of it was finished down with a, hey, thank you, Thomas. A lot of it was finished down with my Dual Action Pro 15 long throw dual action polisher. And a lot of it, hey, Miss Stephanie, a lot of it was finished with my rotary buffer with a black Lake Country polishing pad and the Sonax Perfect Finish polish. And I had to drop down again to that 3-inch backing plate and pad just because it's so curvy and so many little spaces like up under there, that kind of stuff. And around that door you have to go, I had to go down even further to what they call a nano polisher, which has a head on it about that big to polish around those little spaces right there above that piece of chrome and right below it between that and the pinstripe. Of course, the pinstripe was taped off. Of course, I've taken it off now. because I'm done with this panel. But I'll come in a little bit closer, and I'd say, you guys, 98% of the paint defects are gone. I'm picking up a little something right there. I can't really tell what that is, but that may have been a defect in the paint itself. I can't see it. I think maybe it's just a reflection of light. But I think, as you can plainly see, all the deep scratches and the light scratches that were inside of here from, like I said, fingernails and that kind of stuff are gone. They're gone. They have disappeared. All that took all day yesterday. And what I did earlier this morning, I went back with my polish and an even softer pad and repolished parts of it after getting a good examination with my inspection light. And so then I finished it up. It's just all been wiped down. There's no protection on this whatsoever. And the products I use, folks, do not have fillers in them, or if they do, it's very minimal fillers. What happens with a lot of your retail products, yeah, they work pretty good, but they all have a lot of what we call fillers in there, which means instead of removing the scratch, or don't remove as much as my methods do, they fill it in so that, you know, the first time you wash the car, or after it sits outside or it dries real good, all that filler washes out of the scratch or evaporates out of the scratch, and next thing you know, the scratch has come back. It looks good for a week or two, maybe even a little bit longer, but then it comes back. So that's one reason what I did this morning was I paint prepped this panel again to remove any fillers that might have been there. Hey, Terry, catching everybody up, buddy. There's our owner of this magnificent vehicle joining us, guys. Terry, I was just telling everybody all day long yesterday on this door and around the door. But what I was telling everybody, hey, good morning, Terry. Good morning. Happy Sunday to you, brother. Terry's the owner of this vehicle, and one hell of a good guy, too. And I think he's single, ladies. So you single ladies might want to check his profile out. I can't help being a little bit of a matchmaker, Terry. But what I was telling everybody is, after all day yesterday working on this thing with several different grits of wet dry sand, you had some long scratches that were kind of curvy like that. I'm not sure what that was from, but you couldn't blame those on the cat, Terry. I'm pretty sure. And, you know, I know Terry knows. Hey, Alan. Terry, our owner, he remembers there were multiple scratches around this door handle on the driver's door. This is the driver's door, which is typical of almost any car, you know, from fingernails and whatever, when people getting in and out, fumbling around with their keys, blah, 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 blah. There again, Terry, you can't blame that on the cat either. He don't open the door. But I think I'll come in a little bit. You can see, Terry, all those are gone. But what I was saying is, like this morning I got up, and all products have just a little bit of filler in them. They fill in the scratches, and then the first time you wash it, they come right back. But what I did is I used a really high quality paint prep so that I removed any fillers that might have been there. And whatever defects showed back up, I attacked them again with my Lake Country black polishing pad, a final finishing pad, and my buffer, just to make sure that when I get rid of a scratch, it is gone. It's gone forever. It will not come back. Not that scratch. No matter how many times you wash the car, how long it sits outside, when it's gone, it's gone. And that's my goal, is to when I move scratches, to permanently remove them. And a lot of you say, hey, you know, that hadn't been touched yet, but it looks pretty good. Well, yeah, it kind of sort of does till you get in close. And I think if you look closely, you see the scratches on this panel? You know, that's kind of a before picture, and this is after. I think you can clearly see the difference when you catch the light just right. Even though this one's nice and shiny, it's absolutely covered in scratches and paint defects, which I'm about to go to work on here in a few minutes, Terry. No, Terry, you can't blame all this on the cat. I don't think any of this you could blame on the cat. Maybe the horizontal surface of that flare right there you might could. Man, that's curvy. Woo wee. Had a tough time with even the 3-inch backing plate and pad on that, Terry. And this door is, you can't hardly tell it from here, but it's curved all the way down. Curved all the way down, so you can't use a 5-inch backing plate and pad on there. Not really. I mean, you could, but you end up having to tilt the buffer, and that's what leaves holograms and swirls and makes it even more work for you. So that entire door and that was all, and down there was all, you know, you got a real steep curve down at the bottom there. And that was all done with a small backing plate and pad. It took forever because you're only, you know, when you do a 3-inch backing plate and pad, Terry, you're really only getting about that much coverage at a time, and then you have to overlap that. So, and then you have to go carefully, slowly do a small area, clean up your mess, and check your work. My inspection light got a lot of work yesterday. Of course, Terry, in real life and in person, when you get under the bright lights, some of this, like I think you can see in there, did not come out, but some of that is so far into the clear coat, and I'm not sure how much clear coat is left over this paint job, even though it's a thick paint job, like we discussed when you brought the car down here. My paint thickness gauge doesn't tell me how much of that is base coat and how much of it's clear coat. So my goal is to make it look as good as possible without sacrificing any more clear coat than I absolutely have to. But, you know, when I get done, we'll put some good protecting finish on here, a sacrificial layer, I call it, which will help protect it even further. I don't know what you're going to do about these places here. So I've got them taped over where it's peeling and cracking and that sort of thing, because I didn't want the buffer anywhere close to those to protect that. And I may take a little bit of that clear coat restore, Terry, and just kind of dab it on there to try to prolong the life of it as much as possible. I mean, there's even bubbling right here. There was tape over that, but I took it off, and it's a slight crack in the paint right there where it's going to peel off if I don't do something. Yeah, but Terry, we don't want it to peel off before you get the thing up for sale, buddy. So I may touch that up with a little clear coat restorer. It'll be obvious that it's been touched up, but hopefully it'll help protect it for a while longer, so as if, you know, a buyer or yourself is kind of happy with that for the moment, it'll stay that way for a while, okay? But yeah, you can see there is a difference between the done panel and the undone. You can quite, if I get the light, see there, you can see the scratches there. You can't blame that on the cat either, Terry. I don't know what that's from. Improper washing, or, you know, it almost looks like they took this car through a car wash, but I can't imagine doing that. Or they used one of those brushes to wash it with or something. I don't know. A lot of it's from improper buffing, but that's not the right kind of pattern there where you can blame that on buffing. I'm not sure what that is. I suspect maybe it's from people brushing up against the car as they get ready to open the door with their blue jeans on. And a lot of times I work in blue jeans, Terry, but on this car and some of the other high-level cars, I just wear cotton gym pants so that if I do brush up against the car, I don't scratch it further and make more work for myself, and then so that I don't brush up against a panel I've already done and then have to go back and get rid of that. Because the more you buff, the more clear coat you take off. Just no getting around it. But you can see, Terry, I've got this thing all taped off, buddy. And I'm particularly concerned about this rubber gasket, I guess you might call it, right in here, because it's already been damaged by buffers. Some of that you saw the white on there, I got most of it off, but some of it was overspray from primer, I think, and some of it was damaged from a previous buffing. I could tell the buffer marks, so I've taped it off to preclude that. I've got your pinstripe taped off. And I spent a lot of time cleaning around this stuff, so I taped it off so I don't make a mess or damage it any further with my buffer. Same thing down here. Of course, you're not really going to damage that with a buffer, but you will get stuff down in there. Stuff that you can't even see or clean out. But what happens, it gets down in there. It's a dust down under like a piece of molding like that, Terry. And then what happens is when moisture gets in there from whatever the source, the dust that's behind it holds the moisture, and then what do we have over a period of a little short period of time? You get rust behind that. Of course, there may already be some, I don't know. This car's so old, who the hell knows when the last time that was taken off. I'm not going to try to take it off because it may be too fragile, but at least doing this will preclude it from getting any worse, Terry, than what it might already be. It may not be bad, I don't know. But you can see I've taped all that off, taped that pinstripe and crack all the way down there. But it's a tedious job, Terry. It's taking long because this is a big damn car and I'm having to use a little buffer and, like I said, 2 or 3 things of sandpaper and just basically going little area by little area by little area with each technique, because I don't want to wet sand the whole car. So what I do is I find the worst areas with my inspection light and I'll attack that starting with the 3000 3M grit sandpaper. And then if there's a bad scratch, I may drop down to 2500 or 2000. And of course, that when you do that, then you have to go back over that with the 3000 again, and then you can compound over it, and then you can polish it. Sometimes with 2 different grades of polish, just depending on what you end up with. That's what I had to do to your door. There were several big, long scratches that required dropping down to 2000, 2500, and then going back up. And in one case, I actually went all the way back up to 6000 grit, which is roughly the equivalent of clay bar, Terry. And then the compound, and then the polish. Some have had to be polished a couple times to get it back with the mirror looking finish like we have here. So anyway, just catching everybody up. Looks like you're the only one left watching, Terry. That's okay. This stuff is kind of boring to a lot of people. Once they see the progress and how it looks, they drop off, and that's okay. The main reason I do these is for the customers, which is you. All right, buddy, hit that like button for me. Leave a comment or something. Oh, you already left a couple comments. I appreciate that, Terry. They claim it helps get you more exposure. I don't know, don't really care. The primary reason I'm doing this is for the customer, which is you. Whew. Oh, it takes a lot of patience. Sometimes I just have to take a break, Terry, and go get me a drink of coffee or 2 and chill out for a couple of minutes and then come right back to it. I don't stay away from it for very long. Hey, Miss Kimberly. Oh, Terry. A little hottie just signed on to watch. She has a hottie too, brother. But Kimberly, I was just telling everybody it took me all day long yesterday just to do that door. I'm getting ready to get started on this area. So you can see the difference there between that and see those scratches there, Kimberly. By the end of today, those will all be gone. 98% of them, if not all of them. But I think you can clearly see the difference. And then I had to come out this morning and finish this up, which amounted to just paint prepping it, removing any fillers that might be in some scratches, and then that tells me if I really got rid of the scratches or if the fillers filled in those scratches, which will mean they would come back in a couple weeks. Once I get a scratch gone, it's gone forever. And the only way you could tell if you really did that is to go back after and remove any fillers. And all of these products have varying amounts of fillers in them, Kimberly. So, but as you can see, I've removed all the tape, cleaned all my mess up there, and I've taped everything off back here, including that pinstripe, all this stuff, the chrome, everything, so that I can get started on this shortly. Of course, I'll be doing up top first. Yeah, those little bitty places are hard, because they're only that wide. So I have to get down to a very small polisher to get those spots right there. And in here. And then probably the biggest buffer I'm gonna be able to use on this, cause it looks flat, Kimberly, but it's not. This is a pretty good curve right here, and it curves all the way down. And then when you get down there, it's a really sharp curve, so it's hard to get the buffers and stuff in there. And this back fender is the same thing. It curves all the way down, which you can get away with using a bigger buffer, which a lot of guys, you know, they pick a buffer and they just take off. But you increase the chance of leaving worse holograms and missing spots when you're using say a 6 or an 8-inch buffer, especially on curvy areas like that. It's hard to keep enough of the pad when it's that wide and you got that much of a curve on the paint and get it all. So you really have, it actually takes longer, but a lot of guys don't want to take the time to change buffers, or they don't want to go to the expense of purchasing different buffers. Sometimes with mine, I just have several different size backing plates so that it only takes a minute to change them. But anyway, you guys, I'm about to get started on this, Philip. I have my son-in-law, folks. One of them. I was just showing everybody, Philip, I finished the door. Took me all day long yesterday. I'm getting ready to get started on this, Philip. And I think even in you can see the scratches there and the difference between that and that. So this is going to look like this probably in 3 to 4 hours, maybe. It just depends. Just depends. You never know how it's going to go, because this clear coat, I think we figured it's been on, this paint job's been on here 10, 15 years. And a paint guy yesterday told me he thinks this is acrylic enamel paint, and it's very, very thick. Extremely thick, and it's hard as a diamond, which is good and bad. But the bad part is when you get somebody like me working on it, it's so hard, it's very difficult to make stuff like that go away because the paint is so hard. Much easier to correct a medium or a soft clear coat, which is, we have a lot of that on the newer cars these days. But this is a repaint. It was a custom paint job. And boy, they put it on thick. I've never seen paint this thick. My paint thickness gauge went off the chart. It probably has about 3 times as much paint on it as a newer car does, or a factory paint job. Hey, Mr. Gary, you got here just in time. I'm about to sign off, Gary. But I was just showing everybody I finished that door, getting ready to start back here. Kind of, you can plainly see the difference. I hope you can, Gary. But this took almost all day yesterday. And prepped all this. As you can see, taped all the areas. That's a pinstripe. Taped all the vulnerable pieces and areas off down here. And I'm getting ready. What I'm going to do is go section by section. And I'll be probably wet sanding parts of it, not all of it, and then I'll go back to probably a hybrid wool pad and do the compounding, and then depending on how that comes out, maybe different pads and products in some areas, and then finally finish down with a final polish and a polishing pad. But we'll see how it goes. I'll catch y'all up again later. Appreciate you dropping by. Thanks.